Hey everyone, and welcome. We're kicking off our journey through the NCERT Hornbill textbook, and we're starting with an absolute classic, Khushwant Singh's The Portrait of a Lady. Honestly, this is one of those stories that it sticks with you. It's such a beautiful and moving story about a relationship between the grandson and his grandmother. So, let's get right into it. Right from the get-go, Khushwant Singh introduces us to the heart and soul of this story, his grandmother. And look at the words he uses. He's not just describing her clothes or her hair, he's painting a picture of her entire being. This phrase, an expanse of pure white serenity, it's like he's describing a vast, quiet, snowy landscape. That's who she was to him, a source of calm, peace, and contentment. This is the image you really need to hold on to as we go through their story. And this is really the core conflict of the entire story. The grandmother, you see, she's like a rock. She's constant, she's full of tradition, faith, and love. But the world, especially her grandson's world, is doing the exact opposite. It's moving, it's changing, it's modernizing, and this tension, this pull between her steadfastness and the fast-changing world, well, that's what drives the whole narrative and really tests the incredible bond they share. Okay, so let's start where the author starts, with his memory of her. It's fascinating, right? He doesn't tell us about her youth or give us some long backstory. Nope. He presents her to us as this finished portrait, a person who just seems to exist outside of time itself. For him, she was always old, always that serene presence he knew.
You've got to pay attention to the words here. He says the thought was almost revolting. I mean, that's a really strong reaction, isn't it? It's not that he thought being young was a bad thing. It's just the idea of his grandmother being anything other than the person he knew was just unbelievable. It felt wrong. To him, her old age wasn't just a chapter in her life, it was her life. For 20 years, she had looked the same. So old, she couldn't possibly get any older.
And this line, it's just brilliant. It gets to the very heart of who she was. The author makes this incredibly important distinction. Pretty, that's about looks, it's on the surface, and it fades. But beautiful, that's something deeper that comes from the soul. Her beauty wasn't in her face, which he describes as a crisscross of wrinkles. It was in her character, in her constant prayers, the way she moved around the house, and that deep, deep sense of peace she had. That was her real, timeless beauty. All right, let's move on to the first phase of their relationship, which takes place in the village. You could call this the golden age of their friendship. Their lives were completely woven together. They had this shared daily routine that created a bond that felt, unbreakable. This was a time of pure, simple connection before the world got complicated. I mean, just look at how deep this connection was. Her entire day revolved around him. She woke him up, got him ready, and she'd sing her morning prayers hoping he'd learn them. He admits he didn't really listen to the words, but he listened because he loved her voice. Their walk to the temple school was this shared ritual. While he learned his letters, she'd sit inside reading scriptures. And on the way home, they'd feed the village dogs together. Every single part of their day was a shared experience. And then, bam! This one simple, powerful sentence changes everything. Their move to the city. That was the moment it all pivoted. It was the turning point, and their relationship was never quite the same after that. They still shared a room, sure, but that effortless closeness they had in the village, it started to fade. So now we're entering the second phase, where their bond gets tested. And it's not because they stopped loving each other, not at all. It's because their lives just started moving in completely different directions. The city brought new routines, new ideas, and a new kind of distance, both literally and figuratively, that just slowly started to pull them apart. This slide just lays out the contrast so perfectly. In the village, school was a shared thing, centered around faith and scriptures. But in the city, he's on a motor bus to an English school, learning about science and gravity, things his grandmother just couldn't wrap her head around. She couldn't help him anymore. The walk they shared is gone. The village dogs they fed together are replaced by sparrows she feeds alone in the courtyard. Every single one of these changes just chipped away at the common ground they used to stand on. And this leads to a really crucial point, her growing unhappiness with his new life. It wasn't just that she couldn't help with homework. She actively disapproved of his education. For her, a school with no teaching about God was just wrong. And then, when he told her he was having music lessons, she was deeply disturbed. In her world, music wasn't for respectable people. The author says she didn't say anything, but her silence meant disapproval. And after that, she rarely spoke to him. So when the author went off to university and got his own room, that was it. The common link of friendship was snapped. And how did she handle it? With this quiet, dignified resignation. Her world just shrank down to these three things. The spinning wheel kept her busy from sunrise to sunset. Her prayers were constant. And the sparrows, the sparrows became her new friends. That half-hour feeding them was the happiest part of her day, the one time she'd really relax and smile. This became her new life.
And that brings us to the final, and honestly, the most incredibly moving part of their story. This covers the author going abroad, his return, and his grandmother's peaceful, dignified end. It's just a powerful testament to a bond that somehow survived, even through all the silence and distance.
Let's walk through this because every single moment here is so important. He's leaving for 5 years, and at the station, she shows no emotion. She just prays and kisses his forehead. He holds on to that kiss, that moist imprint, thinking it might be their last touch. But 5 years later, he comes back, and there she is, looking not a day older, still praying as she hugs him. And then something totally out of character happens. That evening, for the first time ever, she stops praying. She gets an old drum, gathers the neighborhood women, and sings for hours, celebrating his return like he's a warrior coming home. It was this huge release of emotion, but the strain was too much. The next morning, she's ill, and she knows her end is near. She refuses to waste her last moments talking, choosing to spend them in prayer.
And that's how she passed. It's as quiet and as peaceful as the life she lived. There's no drama, no struggle. She's just lying in bed, praying until her lips stop and the rosary beads, which were always in her hand, finally fall. She was gone.
So after she passes, while the family is mourning and getting things ready for the funeral, something extraordinary happens. As the sun is setting, lighting up her room, a whole different group of mourners arrives. And this sets the stage for one of the most powerful, memorable scenes you'll ever read. Just try to picture it. Thousands of sparrows, her birds. They're all over the veranda, all over her room, right up to where she lay. But the most profound thing isn't the sight of them, it's the sound, or the complete lack of it. There was no chirping. These birds, who usually made a huge racket, were completely, utterly silent. It was a silence of grief. The author's mother feels sorry for the birds and throws them some bread just like the grandmother used to. But the sparrows don't even look at it. They weren't there for food. They were there to mourn. They just sat there in silence until her body was carried away. And then they flew off, just as quietly as they had come. It's just a stunning display of a connection that went way beyond words. So after all that, what are we left with? What's the ultimate message of this beautiful story? Well, it's all about how love and memory live on, long after someone is gone. The story doesn't really end with her death. It ends with the portrait she left behind. Remember that moist imprint of the kiss he thought was their last touch? It ends up being a metaphor for her whole life. Even though she's physically gone, the imprint of her love, her peace, her strength, that's permanently etched in his memory. She lives on, this perfect, unchanging portrait of pure white serenity. And that really brings us to the heart of it all. Khushwant Singh's story is so personal, but its theme is something we can all connect with. We all carry these portraits in our minds of the people who have shaped us. So I'll just leave you with that question to think about: what portrait of a loved one do you carry with you? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll see you for the next chapter.